Dear ladies, have you ever had that moment where you're staring at your phone, wondering why he hasn't called, why he hasn't texted, why he seems totally fine, why you're stuck thinking about him constantly? It's frustrating, isn't it? You gave him your time, you showed him your heart, you were there consistently, openly, lovingly, but now you feel like a distant memory in his world. Meanwhile, he's still taking up so much space in yours. And you're left asking the question, we've all asked at some point, why isn't he missing me? But what if I told you the problem isn't that he doesn't care at all? It's that he hasn't had the chance to realize what he's missing. See, when someone feels your energy all the time, when you're always the one reaching out, following up, filling the silence, they don't get the space to actually feel your absence. And that's where everything shifts. Because men don't start missing you when you chase. They start missing you when they feel your absence and realize what they lost. This video is not about playing games. It's not about being cold, manipulative, or fake. It's about stepping into your value. Understanding what makes someone miss you deeply, not just because you disappeared, but because you showed up in a way that made your presence unforgettable. Let's talk about what actually makes a man miss you more than anyone else. Let's dive in. There's a harsh truth that many people don't like to admit, but it's something we all need to understand, especially when it comes to love and attraction. People don't miss what they feel entitled to. Let that sink in for a second. If someone believes they'll always have access to you, that you'll always answer their text, that you'll always be around when they're bored, lonely, or in the mood for attention, then your presence stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like a given. And when something becomes a given, it stops being appreciated. Think about anything in your life that you've started to take for granted. Maybe it's the comfort of your home, your daily cup of coffee, or even a close friend who's always there for you. Over time, if there's no distance or disruption, you stop thinking about how valuable those things really are. They just fade into the background. Now, apply that same principle to dating and relationships. If you're constantly showing up for someone, texting first, making plans, offering emotional support whenever they need it, you might think you're showing love. You might think you're proving your value. And in a healthy relationship, that kind of giving can be beautiful. But here's the catch. If the other person hasn't earned that level of consistency from you, they won't value it. The mistake so many people make is thinking, if I give more, they'll care more. But it doesn't work like that. Attraction isn't built through constant availability. It's built through a sense of value and mystery. It's built when someone feels lucky to have access to you, not when they feel entitled to it. When someone starts believing that you'll always be there no matter what, they stop working to keep you. And the moment they stop working for it, they stop valuing it. That's just human nature. We value what we earn. We value what feels scarce. We value what challenges us in healthy ways, not what's handed to us with zero effort. Now, this doesn't mean you should play games. I'm not saying you should pretend to be busy or act disinterested when you're not. But I am saying you need to start being intentional with your energy. You need to start asking yourself, am I showing up in a way that teaches this person to appreciate me or to expect me? Because when someone expects you, they stop seeing you. They stop noticing you. You become part of the furniture in their emotional living room. You're there, they know it, and they don't think about what life would be like without you until you're gone. And that's the part people miss. It's not your presence that makes them realize your worth, it's your absence. It's in the silence, in the stillness, in those quiet moments when they look around and think, wait, she hasn't called, she hasn't reached out, she's not asking me how my day was. That's when it hits. That's when the brain starts filling in the gaps with memories, curiosity, and even regret. But you can't manufacture that longing if you've trained someone to believe that no matter what they do or don't do, you'll still be right there. You'll still respond. You'll still show up. That's not love. That's enabling. If you really want someone to feel your absence, first they have to value your presence. And they won't value it if you're giving it away unconditionally to someone who's not showing up for you in return. That's why boundaries are not just about protecting your peace. They're about preserving your value. So if you're currently in a situation where you're doing all the emotional labor, constantly proving your worth, constantly trying to stay on their radar, I want you to stop and ask yourself, what am I teaching this person about me? Am I teaching them that I'm rare or that I'm always available? Because someone can't miss what they've never felt the risk of losing. And if there's no perceived cost to losing you, no chance of actually feeling your absence, then you're just background noise. The magic happens when you shift that dynamic, when you stop being always there and start being selectively there. Not to play hard to get, but to remind them that access to your time, your heart, and your energy is something to be earned and appreciated. People don't miss what they feel entitled to. They miss what feels like a privilege. And you should always feel like a privilege. Emotional independence is magnetic. We've been sold this idea through movies, songs, and even our own insecurities that in order to keep someone interested, we need to make them feel needed. That somehow being dependent on them emotionally, needing their attention, their texts, their validation, will make them feel important. And if they feel important, they'll stick around. But let me tell you something that will change the way you see attraction forever. Needing someone doesn't make them love you more. In fact, the opposite is often true. Emotional independence is magnetic. You want to know what keeps someone up at night thinking about you? It's not that you fall apart when they're gone. It's not that you cling harder every time they pull away. It's that you're calm without them. It's that you're grounded, fulfilled, and joyful, whether they're texting or not. It's the way you can feel something for them deeply without making them the center of your universe. There is something incredibly attractive, irresistible even, about a person who can say, I want you, but I don't need you, to feel whole. Because that kind of energy doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't panic when there's a delay in response. It doesn't try to force a connection that isn't being reciprocated. That kind of energy makes someone lean in. It makes them curious. It makes them ask themselves, wait, why is she so centered? Why doesn't she seem anxious for my attention? Why do I feel like I need to work a little harder to impress her? That's not manipulation. That's self-respect. Emotional independence doesn't mean you never open up. It doesn't mean you play hard to get or keep people at a distance. No, that's emotional unavailability. What I'm talking about is the ability to maintain your peace, your purpose, and your power regardless of what someone else is doing. When you're emotionally independent, you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone who complements you. And that shift in mindset, that's where real attraction lives. People can feel it when you've built something beautiful in your life. They can feel it when you've done the work to love yourself, to grow, to show up for yourself in the way you wish someone else would. And when they realize that you're already happy without them, that's when they want to be part of your happiness. Because think about it. Who do we admire most in life? It's not the person who needs everyone to fill their cup. It's the person who walks into the room already full and has enough overflow to lift others up. And in relationships, it's no different when a man sees that you have standards, that you have boundaries, that you're not afraid to walk away from something that doesn't serve you. It sends a powerful message. I choose you, but I am enough with or without you. That message doesn't push people away. It makes them lean in because it tells them you're not there out of fear. You're not staying because you're afraid to be alone. You're staying because they've earned your presence. And listen, this doesn't mean you can't have moments of vulnerability. It doesn't mean you need to be perfect or emotionless. But when your self-worth doesn't rise and fall based on someone else's interest, that's when you become unshakable. And that energy, that grace under pressure, that quiet confidence that says, I'm okay either way, that's magnetic. So if you're wondering why someone starts to pull away when you get close, ask yourself this: have I been leaning too hard into them and forgetting to lean into myself? Have I placed all my emotional eggs in their basket, expecting them to make me feel enough? Because the moment you pull that energy back, not out of punishment, but out of power, you remind yourself and them that your happiness is your responsibility. And that truth is not only powerful, it's beautiful, it's sexy, and it's unforgettable. So don't be afraid to show someone that you love your life, that you're fulfilled with or without them, because when you stop needing someone to choose you, that's when they start seeing you as the kind of person they can't afford to lose. Emotional independence isn't about pushing love away. It's about standing so confidently in who you are that love knows it has to rise to meet you. Absence creates longing. There's a mistake I see people make all the time when they like someone. They think, if I just stay in their life, if I just keep showing up, if I remind them how much I care, eventually they'll feel what I feel. So what do? They stay in constant contact. They're always the one texting first. They're always available when he calls. They never let the silence stretch too long because they're terrified that if they're not around, he'll forget them. But here's the truth that hurts a little at first and then sets you free. Absence creates longing. When someone is constantly around, constantly available, constantly present, there's no reason to miss them. They're just there, like background noise, like a playlist that's always on repeat. Nice, comforting, but not necessarily special. But the moment that song stops playing, suddenly you notice the silence, you feel the space it used to fill, and you start to remember how much you liked it. That's what happens when someone who added real value to your life creates a little distance. When you pull back, not in a cold, punishing way, but with quiet confidence and grace. It gives the other person space to feel something they haven't had a chance to feel. I miss her. And here's what's important. You're not disappearing to manipulate. You're not withholding love or playing games. You're creating a gap where reflection can happen. Because let's be honest, no one reflects in the noise. No one appreciates something they're constantly bombarded with. They appreciate it when it's gone. And this goes even deeper than just romantic attraction. Think about your own life. There are people who only became important to you after they left. It wasn't until they stopped calling, stopped showing up, stopped being part of your everyday that you realized just how much they meant to you. That's because it's hard to see the value of someone when you've never experienced life without them. So when you give someone the opportunity to feel your absence, you're giving them a gift. The gift of perspective. You're giving them a chance to stop and think, where did she go? Why hasn't she reached out? Is she moving on? And most importantly, did I take her for granted? Those questions are powerful and they can't arise if you're always present, always initiating, always filling the silence before he has the chance to sit in it. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean disappearing for the sake of playing hard to get. This isn't about ghosting or withdrawing your love to teach him a lesson. This is about knowing your value so deeply that you're not afraid to pull back and protect your peace. It's about letting someone feel your worth rather than constantly telling them. Because words are easy to ignore, but the absence of someone's presence, that hits different. That's when memories start to come back. That's when the little things you did begin to echo. Your laugh, the way you encouraged him, the calm you brought to his chaos. All of that rises to the surface when you're not around. And if there was real connection there, he'll feel it, not in the first hour, not even necessarily in the first few days, but when life gets quiet, when he's alone with his thoughts, he'll remember you, but only if you give him the space to. You see, absence creates longing, but only if there was presence worth missing. So your job isn't to disappear randomly and hope he comes running. Your job is to show up fully while you're there, leave a real imprint, and then have the self-respect to step back if you're not being met halfway. You show him what it feels like to be loved, seen, and valued. And then you go live your life. You don't chase. You don't beg. You trust that if he's meant to be in your life, he'll feel that gap and he'll move to close it. And if he doesn't, you'll be okay, because you're not creating absence to manipulate someone into caring. You're creating space to see who notices you're gone and who is just enjoying the convenience of you always being there. The right person won't just notice the silence. He'll miss you in it. And that's when longing turns into action. A full life is irresistible. There's something undeniably attractive about a person who's genuinely in love with their life. I'm not talking about someone who's pretended to be busy or curating a highlight reel of their life for social media to make an ex jealous. I'm talking about the kind of woman who wakes up every day with purpose, who knows who she is, who has a schedule full of things that excite her, challenge her, grow her, who doesn't wait for a text to decide whether today is a good day or a bad one. That kind of life is magnetic, and here's why. Most people, whether they admit it or not, are secretly drawn to wholeness, to someone who doesn't make them the center of their world, to someone who's already happy, already fulfilled, and already walking their path, with or without a romantic partner. When your life is full, emotionally, socially, intellectually, spiritually, you naturally become someone who is hard to forget because you're not clinging to someone to fill a gap. You're inviting them to experience a life that's already vibrant and rich. And trust me, men can feel this difference instantly. The woman who waits by the phone, checks the last seen on his messages, overthinks every interaction, drops her plans the second he calls, that energy doesn't pull him closer. It makes him take her for granted, because her life seems to orbit around his. But the woman who has things going on, she's working on herself. She's planning trips. She's going to yoga. She's catching up with friends. She's building her career, laughing at brunch, journaling in the morning, reading books that light her up. She becomes unforgettable, not because she's trying to be, but because she's living so fully, so authentically, that a man can't help but notice and admire it. Why? Because she becomes rare. Let's be honest, in today's world, it's not common to meet someone who isn't waiting for someone else to come along and make them happy. It's not common to meet someone who's genuinely content on their own. So when you are that person, when your life is filled with things that make you smile, people who uplift you, and a strong sense of who you are, you don't just become dateable, you become magnetic. Now, this doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. You don't need to be making six figures, traveling every weekend, or reading 3 self-help books a month. That's not what this is about. It's about momentum. It's about showing up for your own life. Because when you're in motion, when you're growing, discovering, learning, becoming, you give off a glow that no makeup, no text strategy, no Instagram filter can replicate. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you focus on your own life, the less you obsess over someone else's. You stop wondering, why hasn't he texted back? Because you're too busy living. You stop stressing, is he pulling away? Because your attention is on your next step, your next goal, your next adventure. And guess what happens then? You become a challenge in the best way. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not easy to distract from your path. You're not sitting around waiting for him to validate you. You've got a whole life that excites you, and that makes him want to earn a spot in it. Men respect what they have to earn, and when your time, energy, and attention are no longer automatically his, he starts wondering how to become deserving of them. So if you want to be unforgettable, don't just try to impress him, impress yourself. Create a life you're proud of. Go after your dreams. Do things that light you up. Surround yourself with people who bring you joy. Because when you love your life, you radiate something that's impossible to fake. And that's what a man can't stop thinking about. Not just your face, not just your body, but your energy, your passion, your joy, the way you light up when you talk about your favorite things. That's what lingers. That's what haunts him in the best way. That's what makes him miss you even when you're not trying to be missed. So don't make someone else the center of your world. Be the center of your own. Because when your life is full, you stop chasing. And when you stop chasing, that's when he starts. Rarity is remembered. Let's talk about something that makes the biggest difference when it comes to being unforgettable. And it's one word: rarity. In life, and especially in love, we remember what's rare. We cherish what we don't see every day. We long for what we can't easily replace. Now think about this in real terms. If you walk into a store and see a shirt you kind of like, and there are 50 more of them on the rack in every size and color, you might glance, maybe try one on, but there's no urgency, no real emotional attachment, because you know it's still be there tomorrow. But if you walk into a store and there's one left in your size and it fits you perfectly, suddenly it feels special. You don't want to lose it. You don't want someone else to get it first. You don't want to walk away and realize later that you missed out on something amazing. That's how Rarity works. It's not about being flashy or loud. It's about being distinct. It's about having something, an energy, a vibe, a standard that not everyone offers. And the same goes for how we show up in relationships. A woman who's truly rare isn't rare because she's trying to be. She's rare because she knows who she is, and she doesn't dilute that for anyone. She's not always available, not because she's playing games, but because her time is genuinely full of things that matter to her. She doesn't tolerate hot and cold behavior, not because she's cold, but because her self-respect is too high to entertain inconsistency. She's not always chasing connection because she's busy cultivating one with herself. She's rare because she operates at a higher frequency. She communicates clearly. She knows what she wants. She knows how to be soft without losing her power and strong without building walls. She's kind, but she's not a pushover. She's giving, but not to someone who gives nothing back. She's nurturing, but she doesn't mother grown men who haven't grown up emotionally. That kind of woman is rare, and because she's rare, she's remembered. When you're this kind of woman, even if things don't work out with someone, you leave a mark. Long after the texts stop, long after the conversations fade, there's something about you that stays with him. Why? Because he realizes how hard it is to find someone like you again. When he goes back into the dating world, swiping through faces, making small talk, running into people who don't challenge him, don't inspire him, don't elevate him, suddenly you stand out. You're not just another name in his phone. You're not a placeholder for attention. You're the one who raised the bar. And here's the catch. Being rare isn't about scarcity. It's about quality. It's not about how little you give. It's about the depth of what you give and who you give it to. So many people think being rare means playing it cool, being mysterious, or being emotionally distant. But that's not what true rarity is. True rarity is when you're able to be open and vulnerable with the right person, but wise enough to protect your energy when it's not being respected. It's when you can offer warmth, but you don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean you need to be perfect. It doesn't mean you can't have your moments of doubt, your soft spots, your human flaws. But the difference is you honor those things. You know your worth even on your off days. You don't perform to be chosen. You choose yourself first. And that is rare. Because in a world where so many people are trying to impress, trying to be liked, trying to chase love, the person who's already at peace with who they are stands out. She's not auditioning. She's not begging. She's being. And that energy, it's unforgettable. So if you want a man to miss you, if you want to be the one he thinks about when the room gets quiet, when the fun wears off, when he's wondering why no one else feels quite the same, be rare. Don't rush to prove your worth. Don't shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Don't give your heart to someone who hasn't shown you theirs. Stand in your value. Lead with grace. Let your presence be a gift and your absence a lesson. Because when you carry yourself like someone who is not easily found, you become someone who is never easily forgotten. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. You don't have to chase, beg, or prove your worth to be remembered. When you show up with emotional independence, when you create space for someone to feel your absence, when you build a full, vibrant life, when you carry the kind of energy that's rare, you become unforgettable. The right man doesn't forget the woman who knows her value. He remembers her in the silence, in the stillness, in the spaces she once filled, because she didn't need to make noise to be missed. She just had to be real.